In a kingdom filled with gold and glory, God was working behind the scenes. Long ago, in the mighty Persian Empire, lived a young Jewish woman named Esther. She was beautiful, gentle, and wise. But her life hadn't been easy. Esther was an orphan, raised by her older cousin Mordecai in the bustling city of Susa. Though her people, the Jews, lived peacefully in the land, they were still outsiders, quietly keeping their traditions, careful to stay unnoticed. One day, everything changed. King Xerxes, the ruler of Persia, removed his queen and searched the empire for a new one. Beautiful young women were brought from every corner of the land, including Esther. She was taken to the palace nervous, unsure, and far from home. But God had a plan. Esther stood out not just because of her beauty, but because of her humility, kindness, and quiet strength. The king was so taken with her that he made her queen. Just like that, Esther, the orphan Jewish girl, was now queen of Persia. But no one knew her secret. She kept her Jewish identity hidden, just as Mordecai had advised. Sometimes, standing for what is right means standing alone. While Esther was adjusting to her new life in the palace, trouble was brewing outside. A powerful official named Haman had risen in rank second only to the king, but Haman was proud and cruel. When Mordecai refused to bow down to him, Haman was furious, and when he found out Mordecai was a Jew, his anger turned into something darker. Haman convinced the king to sign a deadly decreto, destroy all the Jews in the Persian Empire. It was a death sentence, and no one could stop it. Once a royal decree was sealed, not even the king could reverse it. Mordecai tore his clothes and wept in the streets. He sent word to Esther, begging her to go before the king and plead for their people. But there was a problem. No one was allowed to approach the king without being summoned. Not even the queen. To do so could mean death. Esther was terrified, but Mordecai's message to her was powerful. "Who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this?" Those words stirred something in Esther's heart. Maybe, just maybe, God had placed her in the palace for this very reason. One brave voice can change everything. Esther fasted for 3 days. Then, dressed in her royal robes, she approached the king's throne. The court fell silent. Would he be angry? Would he send her away? But then, the king smiled and held out his golden scepter sign of welcome and grace. Esther was safe. She invited the king and Haman to a banquet, then another. And at the second feast, she revealed everything. Her true identity as a Jew, and Haman's evil plan to destroy her people. The king was shocked and furious. Haman's plot was exposed. Justice was swift. Haman was punished for what he had planned. And a new decree was issued. The Jews could defend themselves. When the day came, the Jewish people stood strong. Their enemies were defeated, and they were saved. Because of one woman's courage, an entire nation was delivered. When the day came, the Jewish people stood strong. Their enemies were defeated, and they were saved. Esther's story is one of quiet strength, bold faith, and divine purpose. She didn't have an army. She didn't have a title of power at first. She had faith, she had courage, and she had the wisdom to act at the right time. Esther teaches us that God can use anyone, anywhere, no matter how unlikely they seem. Sometimes, the place we're in isn't an accident, it's a calling. You were made for such a time as this. So whatever you're facing, don't be afraid to stand up. Don't be afraid to speak truth. Like Esther, your voice might be the one that changes everything.